के वीरों की कहानी, सरहद के वीरों की कहानी, वीरों की जुबानी, वीरों की जुबानी हम सुने। सैनिक वाणी, 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 सैनिक वाणी।
सरहद के वीरों की कहानी, वीरों की जुबानी, सैनिक वाणी भारत के भूसेना, वायुसेना एवं नौसेना के वीरों को समर्पित है यह पॉडकास्ट सीरीज सैनिक वाणी। सैनिक वाणी यह पॉडकास्ट सीरीज आप तक लाई जा रही है मीडिया फॉर कम्युनिटी फाउंडेशन के द्वारा। सैनिक वाणी, दिस पॉडकास्ट सीरीज इज डेडिकेटेड टू द हीरोज ऑन द वॉर फ्रंट ऑफ इंडियन आर्मी, इंडियन नेवी and Indian Airforce, designed and conceptualized by Dr. Sridhar Ramamurthy. Program hosted and produced by Barsha Chabaria. Sainik Vani. This podcast series is being presented by Media for Community Foundation.
Sainik Vani, Sainik Vani, Sainik Vani, Sainik Vani.
Okay, so 3, 2, 1 and here we go. A big hello to all the listeners on behalf of Media for Community Foundation. My name is Barsha Chabaria and with great privilege I welcome you all to a special podcast series, Sainik Vani. This podcast series brings voices of the heroes from the war front, from Indian Army, from Indian Air Force and Indian Navy. Sainik Vani also brings voices of the heroes who have contributed to the glory of the nation. Their lives have been dedicated to contribute to the success chapters of the country. Heroes who have made the country stand apart in the entire globe and have brought colors of glory to the tricolor of the nation's flag. Yes, dear listeners, Rakesh Sharma, the first Indian cosmonaut to go into the space and after circling the Earth, returned back to Earth. As an alumnus of the 35th National Defence Academy, Rakesh Sharma joined the Indian Air Force as a test pilot in 1970 and progressed through numerous levels where in 1984 he was promoted to the rank of squadron leader. He was selected on 20th September 1982 to become a cosmonaut and go into space as a part of a joint program between the Indian Air Force and the Soviet Intercosmos Space Program. In 1984, Rakesh Sharma became the first Indian citizen to enter the space when he flew aboard the Soviet rocket. India became the 14th nation to send a man to outer space. Yes, dear listeners, Rakesh Sharma, a proud hero for our country, India. With great privilege, we all welcome Rakesh Sharma sir to this episode of Sainik Vani. A very good evening to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Barsha, for your kind words. Appreciate it.
And while we interact in Sainik Vani, the country remembers you like a hero, the country remembers you like a man with achievements, the country remembers you somebody who has made India proud, the country remembers you person who is more into the space. How do you define your own name? That's the first question. As a host, I would like to know from you.
Well, I think I'd define it by saying that I'm the luckiest guy from amongst 1.3 billion Indians because I don't believe that there is any perfect selection system. And even though I've never won even a single line in Tombola, but here I was picked up and selected for the ride of a lifetime. So I'm very, very lucky and to have been given this opportunity. And I'm also very proud that I was able to keep the flag of our country, of my service, the Indian Air Force, flying high right through this mission. And we did achieve the kind of success and the mission which was given to us was completed successfully.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. We all know you as a proud Indian, a former Air Force veteran, and very importantly, for being the first Indian to travel to outer space. So tell us a little about how Indian Air Force journey happened, and how did that story happen and the journey to the space happen?
Well, that's a very wide canvas. This whole story, of course, started some time ago, about 3 years before the actual flight. And essentially, the Air Force was tasked to provide, a test pilot. And I happened to be a test pilot at that age. And because I was young, I happened to be fit. Therefore, I didn't have much of a problem passing the very stringent medical tests. Those were the requirements placed by the then Soviet authorities. Time was of the essence, time was less, and that is why they wanted test pilots, because they felt that the learning curve would be negotiated relatively easier by test pilots. And like I said, lucky enough to be at the right place at the right time. That's how myself and Rakesh sir were selected for the mission. And then we moved to Moscow. Outside, on the outskirts of Moscow, there was the Yuri Gagarin Space Flight Center, where we were trained. And the training was for 18 months for a mere 8-day flight. The toughest part being learning the Russian language. The tech element of the training wasn't, I would say, as daunting it wasn't very challenging, because essentially space is an extension of aviation, and more accurately military aviation. So that did not pose too many problems. And then the flight itself, 8 days long, and it was a very exciting time of our life. Went up into space and docked with the Salute, which was a laboratory orbiting the Earth at that time. Carried out experiments which were designed by our scientists, using equipment, once again designed and manufactured by our scientists. And it was a very exciting and a very fulfilling time. Got back all the data, which is being referred to now and then ever since.
Great, sir. You have been a cosmonaut and the first Indian citizen in the space. Cosmonaut, many of us still do not know who is a cosmonaut. And if you can explain it to the listeners, how we define an astronaut and a cosmonaut, and how proud you have been to a cosmonaut nation.
Yeah, so there's not, the only difference between the two is in the spelling, okay? Both do the same kind of job, and in fact, any human being that crosses above the Kármán line, which is 100 kilometers altitude height, when you go above that point, whoever does break through, there's no barrier as such. It is just a qualifying height, I would say. And anyone who goes beyond that is termed as an astronaut or as a cosmonaut, or the French call them spationauts. The Chinese call them taikonauts. And when our Indians go up into space, which is likely to happen next year, let's see, they'll probably be called Gagannauts, because it's a part of the Gaganyaan project. So it's the only difference is name. Otherwise, the kind of work which they do is pretty much the same, knowing full well whether the trip to space is it scientific in nature, or does it have any geostrategic aims to achieve, whether it is overt or covert. So these are the things which define the work package that needs to be carried out while in orbit.
Here, I proudly want to ask you something. When you were being asked by the former Minister Indira Gandhi, how does India look like from the space? What was your answer and what was the feeling? What made you connect with her, and what was in your mind while you were answering her?
Well, I think I was being very literal, because anybody who does go up into space, the first thing they do is look out for their country. And our country appears beautiful from space. It's not beautiful only from space. It is a beautiful country we all are privileged to live in. It's just that we have not visited each and every corner of our country, but you get to see the entire expanse of the country from space at one go. Our country is blessed with a lot of natural elements, like we have a long coastline which is very colorful. We have different textures because we've got deserts and we've got plains and we've got tropical rainforests. So there are various colors and various textures which are visible from space, and the entire experience is very exciting and aesthetically very pleasing.
Wow, wonderful. So one thing, when we look at the current generation, it's been quite a big journey in terms of decades, where we are still looking at more Rakesh Sharmas. Why do you think there's a big gap that the country is looking forward to have more cosmonauts, more people on the space? Where are we lacking? Where's the gap?
I would like to explain it in this manner, that we had no business to be in this business, primarily because ours was a developing economy, but the people who were running the program were visionaries truly, and their intention was to harness science for the betterment of our society. And I'm obviously referring to the Indian society. And so even though there was not very much of money available, we focused only on applications. We focused, and when I say we, I mean ISRO specifically, under the able guidance of visionaries like Vikram Sarabhai, Satish Dhawan, and the long list of chairmen who helped ISRO realize those aims which were set way back. And each step added something which impacted the lives of our countrymen, whether it is television, whether it was telecommunication, whether it was telemedicine. Ours is a vast country, and a lot of it is unapproachable. So if we had waited for infrastructure to be developed in those far-off places, it would have taken us a very long time. But with the help of space technology, we have been able to reach all corners of our country, and our people have benefited, our economy has benefited, because apart from that, there was a lot of data which came down from space, in the sense that data which has been used for our economy, like agriculture, like fisheries, to find out natural resources which are available in which area. And all of it put together, I think, has speeded up the process of our development. And in today's terms, I think the return on investment was well worth it. And again, in retrospect, I think it was a very smart move for us, and we've leapfrogged, I would say, technology-wise and development-wise, with the help of space technology.
So you had in your entire life interacted more with science. So the next thing which I would like to know from you is your own experiences while spending your life in the field of science and your science experiments.
During this, if you're referring only to the space flight, because for the rest of my career, I was a military test pilot, so there wasn't so much of science. There was more of strategy and tactics, and which is a different ball game. But what I was exposed to during the space flight was a lot of it was pure science. Like in material sciences, we did some experiments. Biomedicine, we did some experiments. So whatever science which could not be done as well on Earth due to the presence of gravity, we utilized the fact that there's almost zero gravity in space, and different kind of experiments are better done in that environment, and that's the one we concentrated on. So talking about science per se, I think what our planet needs is science with a conscience. So till now we've had both there's been good science and there's been bad science. The case in point being, we split the atom for energy, but we've ended up making nuclear weapons. So that's what I mean. If we can harness science only for development and for the good of humankind, then we would be on the right path. And those of us who are involved in this kind of activity, a lot of it depends on our worldview, on our culture, and these two items, I think India is way ahead of everybody else. And I hope that in the years to come, India being a very viable space power, will be able to set the agenda for science with a conscience.
Sir, when we take your name, Rakesh Sharma sir, we have so many things to your name: a cosmonaut, a cosmodrome, the first person to have a spacewalk. Particularly want to ask you that why only Indian Air Force people are selected for spacewalks, and also that how was your own spacewalk? How exciting was that?
No. Yeah, so let's get some facts straight. It's been 40 years, and initially I would say the media was not very, very particular, and somehow news and myth kind of collided and coincided. I've never been to the moon, although our children have been brought up on Chanda Mama Durke, but that I've never been to the moon. I've only orbited the Earth. So, and whatever experiments which I've done have always been in Earth's orbit, near Earth orbit. I have not had the experience of a spacewalk. And to answer your question as to why only Air Force test pilots do this in the beginning, I would say the reason for that is any new system which needs to be tested and qualified is better done by those who are qualified to test and certify. And that is the job of a test pilot. So therefore, if new systems have to be proved, as indeed our own manned space program, when it gets off the ground, the initial flights will be done by Indian Air Force test pilots. Till such time, the systems are validated that they are safe and that they are working. And once you reach that stage, that is when everybody can get onto that bandwagon. Well, not bandwagon, space wagon.
So why is this long delay of 40 years for the next person to do a spacewalk? I mean, your own idea on this.
So there's a spacewalk is an entirely different exercise with absolutely heightened risks. So it has taken 40 years because at that time ISRO was really not ready. A manned space program happens, there's a level of maturity that a space organization, research organization needs to reach before they can come to the manned space program segment of development. So for 40 years it has taken us, because this is the kind of game where nobody helps others. The IPs are held very close to the chest, because today's space startup can become tomorrow's competitor. And that is why everything had to be developed in-house. And again, I would like to repeat that our focus was not to compete with anybody. Our focus was to utilize space technology to develop our economy. And that is why it's the applications technology which we focused on. And once those aims were realized, this was the next logical step of manned space program. And it's happening now.
I want to ask you if you are connected with Sunita Williams ji, and would you like to share your insights as in her journey and what is her current scope of work in the space? If you would like to share.
Sunita has been a very, very successful contributor to NASA's plans, and she's also a test pilot. And presently, of course, you've read in the media that she's up there in space waiting to return and testing a new kind of vehicle. So that's the Boeing. So therefore, she's doing what she's trained for, and she's doing it well. And we are all hoping that shortly they will be back after ironing out the problems which they have observed, and that is part of development anyway. And she's the right person, along with her co-pilot, to handle that kind of emergency. And everybody's working towards solving those problems.
It was indeed a very great opportunity, and we got to know so much about you and also about your journey, also about how things are moving in the field of science. So when we say "Sare jahan se acha Hindustan hamara," तो हिंदुस्तान के जो नौजवान हैं, the youth, if they want to become the next Rakesh Sharma, what is that they should do? And your message to the entire youth clan of the country, how do you want to address the young generation today?
So I have explained that you don't really have to be a test pilot. You got to be good in whatever job you have chosen for yourself, whatever grabs your fancy, whatever you're passionate about. And I say that because going forward, humanity is going to colonize the moon, later colonize Mars. And when you do that, these are places which just do not have the environment that supports human life. So therefore, these places will need to replicate and artificially create spaces in space or on the moon or on Mars, so that we can create an environment quite similar to what is available on Earth, so that humans can survive in that environment. And to create that kind of a thing, all the skills which are required to create any kind of infrastructure on Earth is the same kind of skills that will be required there. So material scientists, construction guys, innovators, 3D printers, whatever is there available today to quickly set up a colony and then to safely create an environment quite like what's on Earth. All those skill sets and all those guys who are good in that field of work are the ones who are going to get a chance to get up into space and do their thing. So therefore, the field is open. I would only say that space is not an easy place to live in. So that is why you need to be passionate about whatever you're doing. And if you're selected to do your stuff in an area which is extremely challenging, whether it is Antarctica or whether it is the moon, so you have to have a special kind of resilience to hang in there and deliver what you're good at.
Sainik Vani, Sainik Vani, Sainik Vani.
Absolutely, that whatever you do in life has to take a lot of passion together. But in the field of science as well, we need a lot of passion. And my heartfelt namaste to you, sir. Thank you so much for giving your precious time to us and making Sainik Vani the great initiative by Media for Community Foundation. This concept has been entirely designed and brought by all the efforts of Dr. R. Sridhar, and sir has been equally very, very passionate in the field of community broadcasting. I think my gratitude to all the gurus here. You have been an idol about whom I have learned, I've heard, I've read since my childhood, and I got this opportunity to interview you, to talk to you because of R. Sridhar, sir. Heartfelt pranam to both the gurus today. Before we wrap up, Sainik Vani, how is this initiative sounding to you?
Well, I think what happens is that there's so much noise today, and everybody is out there to grab eyeballs on the audiovisual medium, that to be able to access something which is of value, I think everybody needs to rediscover those methodologies where a person, to give you an example, you've got so many TV channels, but if National Geographic and Discovery, if these channels somehow don't come up in your search before other channels like news, which is mostly noise nowadays, obviously that means the targeting has not been all right. So I would urge all you guys who are now in the meaningful media segment to come up with innovative ideas to attract listenership, to wean them away from what is easily available. It's like Google. If you want to do a search, what comes up first is what gets clicked on. Nobody scrolls down and searches for whatever is of interest. So therefore, it has to be in your face and accessible easily. So I think that's what you guys need to do. And I'm sure that with these kind of initiatives, because there's a lot of lessons which the services mostly are unsung, because that's the culture. We don't interact very frequently with the media, and therefore we are not all that publicity-seeking people. So you will have to ferret them out and give them a platform, I would say.
Thank you so much for giving your precious time to us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Varsha.
भारत के हैं ये वीर महान, भारत के हैं ये वीर महान, इनसे है देश की शान, इनसे है देश की शान, भारत के हैं ये वीर महान, इनसे है देश का गौरव, इनसे है देश का गौरव, इनसे है देश की शान, भारत के हैं ये वीर महान, भारत के हैं ये वीर महान। आइए हम सब सुने इन वीरों की कहानी, आइए हम सब सुने इन वीरों की कहानी।
सरहद के वीरों की कहानी, वीरों की जुबानी। सैनिक वाणी भारत के भूसेना, वायुसेना एवं नौसेना के वीरों को समर्पित है यह पॉडकास्ट सीरीज सैनिक वाणी। सैनिक वाणी यह पॉडकास्ट सीरीज आप तक लाई जा रही है मीडिया फॉर कम्युनिटी फाउंडेशन के द्वारा। Sainik Vani. This podcast series is dedicated to the heroes on the war front of Indian Army, Indian Navy and Indian Air Force. Designed and conceptualized by Dr. Sridhar Ramamurthy. Program hosted and produced by Barsha Chabaria. Sainik Vani. This podcast series is being presented by Media for Community Foundation.
Sainik Vani, Sainik